Alcohol is so normalized in our culture that when women start questioning their drinking, it can feel incredibly isolating. One of the hardest parts about changing your relationship isn't actually stopping drinking. For many women, the hardest part is feeling like you're doing it alone. You might be surrounded by people who drink. You might not know anyone in your life who has chosen to live an alcohol-free life. And so the questions you're asking about alcohol often stay inside your own head. But here's the truth. Those questions are far more common than most women realize. And community can make a huge difference in how women navigate that change. When I quit drinking back in 2016, I did not have community. I wasn't part of a group. I wasn't part of a program, and I was largely figuring things out on my own. And one of the ways that I coped in the early days of my sobriety was seeking out other sober women online, largely on platforms like Instagram. I remember following women who were talking openly about sobriety and alcohol. And even though we were not interacting directly, I was largely lurking. Seeing those women living their lives without alcohol helped me realize several important things. One, it was possible. Two, it really helped normalize the idea that life without alcohol could be expansive and interesting and fulfilling. When I quit drinking, I truly thought my life was over, which now feels like such a wild belief. But I had infused alcohol into so many different parts of my life that I thought that taking alcohol out of the mix would negatively impact all those parts. And now that I'm on the other side of that, I see that taking alcohol out is actually one of the most expansive things I ever could have done. And I'm so glad that I was able to continue to move forward, even though I held that false belief that my life would be over in the absence of alcohol. Anyway, back to the women that I was lurking at on Instagram. Those women, I think, in some ways became like an informal community for me, even though we weren't really in conversation. And that experience really shaped how I think about support for women who are questioning alcohol. The community piece and the connection piece, particularly for women, is so important. There are a few reasons why community is so powerful when women start making changes around alcohol. So first, it normalizes the fact that you're even questioning it. When women hear other women saying things like, I didn't realize how much I was drinking because I was so exhausted, or I thought I was the only one thinking like this, it really changes your relationship to the experience and to those thoughts. It helps women realize they're not broken or flawed to be questioning alcohol in the ways that they are. They're responding to a culture where drinking has become deeply embedded in how we socialize, cope, deal with stress, and try to relax. Second, community really creates space for reflection. When women talk honestly about their experiences with alcohol, they start to see patterns more clearly. Things that felt confusing or personal suddenly become easier to understand. And third, community so greatly reduces the sense of isolation that so many women feel in early sobriety or when they're even exploring sobriety. It can feel very lonely and very isolating, and it can feel like I'm the only person doing this, which can be really discouraging. But by joining a community, it reminds you that you are part of a much bigger group of people. You are part of a much bigger conversation, and that you are not alone, either in your experience or the questions that you're asking or the changes that you're trying to make. And this is actually one of the reasons why I created the Well Circle. The Well Circle is my monthly membership community for sober and sober curious women. We gather weekly on Zoom where we have thoughtful, honest conversations about things like alcohol culture and its influence on our lives and the decisions that we're making, identity shifts in sobriety, navigating things like social pressure or how to be out and socializing in a way that doesn't center around alcohol, that feels good and fun, navigating stress and coping without alcohol, and the lives that women actually want to build beyond drinking. It is a space for conversation, reflection, and connection among women who are exploring their relationship with alcohol. And if that sounds like something you would benefit from, you can learn more about the Well Circle through the link in the description below. One thing I've noticed in my work is how many women initially try to change their relationship with alcohol quietly and often on their own. They don't necessarily announce it. They just start experimenting, drinking less, taking breaks, paying attention to how alcohol affects them. And this kind of reflection can be really valuable. However, doing it alone can sometimes make the process a lot harder than it needs needs to be. Because when questions come up, and they always do, there's no one to really talk about it with. Community doesn't replace personal reflection, but it gives women a safe space and a soft landing where those reflections can be shared and explored and understood. It's also important to say that community and connection and coaching serve very different purposes. Inside the Well Circle, the focus is on shared conversation, community building, and connection. Women learn from each other, reflect together, and support each other through the process of changing their relationship with alcohol. Private coaching, on the other hand, is quite different. That's where I work one-on-one with women to do deeper, individualized work around habits, identity shifts, patterns, and changes needed to build a life that truly supports them. Both forms of support can be incredibly valuable. They just serve different roles. One of the most powerful moments that happens inside spaces like the Well Circle is when you hear a story that is remarkably similar to yours come out of the mouth of another woman. And when you hear that, you immediately feel less alone in your experience. And you also see other women nodding along as they're listening to that story. That moment of recognition can be incredibly freeing because it reminds women that questioning alcohol isn't strange or unusual and that they aren't alone in those experiences. It's part of a much larger cultural shift that's happening right now. More and more women are asking what they actually want their relationship with alcohol to be, and they're discovering that they do not have to figure it out alone. If you are a woman who has been quietly questioning your relationship with alcohol and wishing you had other women to talk to about it, you can learn more about the Well Circle through the link in the description below. And if you've enjoyed this conversation, make sure to subscribe to the channel because I share regular videos on alcohol culture, sobriety, and the deeper changes that happen when women build lives that feel more aligned. Thank you so much for being here.